Hi, everybody. This is Laurie Handlers, and you're listening to Sex and Happiness, a show about your sex and your happiness and my sex and my happiness. It's always about me, but it's also always about you. I would be inauthentic if I said that I don't grow from this. I grow from this too. So today I'm hoping to grow again and again and again. And we're going to be talking about a really important subject. And we've talked about the subject, and that's men. We're going to talk about men in the context of today, like what's happening for men today, and how men may want to be taking some leadership in a way that I hadn't distinguished before, but my guest has. So let me just tell you about him. His name is GS Youngblood, and he wrote a book called The Masculine in Relationship, and it offers a 3-part blueprint for men in relationship to develop their masculine core. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that masculine core turns me on. The idea of that.
All right, that was easy.
So welcome to my show, GS.
Yeah, thank you, Laurie. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So this is exciting, masculine core. I'm gonna riff for a second and tell you what I'm thinking, and I feel like you have a sort of solution to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was part of the first wave of feminism, and I marched in the streets so that I would be safe in the streets. I marched in the streets so that I would be paid equally. And I also did stupid things, like telling a man, when I smoked, I can light my own fucking cigarette, or I can open my own car door. And so little did I know that 4 decades later, men would be so confused, like they wouldn't know who they are. They wouldn't really have a role in life as it regards women. They would be so stripped of some essential core that you're speaking about.
Yeah.
So I've apologized numerous times on the air and in public for the things that I unconsciously helped to create in men, and many men and women have paid dearly for that. And this new wave of feminism, I can't even relate to it. So I just want to say that as setting a context for being so welcoming to the fact that you're saying you've written a book about this. So anyway, how did you get to this? How did you decide to write a book about this?
Well, I'll just comment on what you said quickly before I'll talk about me. And, everything that happens is often a reaction to what came before it. So, your story is very understandable. And the pendulum swings. It swings one way and then it overswings the other way. And in writing this book, I'm trying to help it swing back. And what that means is, as you said, men are lost. They don't know how to be, particularly in relation to a strong woman, which is most women these days. And so that's what the book is about, is to really help these men, have a model for how they can be in their power and coexist with a powerful woman. And then, to your question about me, I spent 10 years in a marriage with a very strong woman. And by the end of that marriage, I was just dancing around trying to stay out of trouble and keep from getting her angry, because it had gotten that toxic at that point. And I always say these days that failure, which is what it felt like, that failure is my fuel. It is my motivation to help other men, help them not make the same mistakes that I made. And so the things that I've learned, that I've observed, I've codified, I've practiced, and hopefully I've manifested over the last 12 years of men's work, is codified in the book. And I hope men can learn from my mistakes and, have a better relationship, have a better marriage. And if they've got kids, to stay together so those kids don't have to go through, a split home like mine did.
Amazing. Let's go back a little bit. 10 years. So you stayed for 10 years. And how old were your kids when you actually split?
pretty young. One was 1, one was 3, one was 5.
I imagine that your partner was cutting your balls off all the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I'll just say yes to that.
yeah, and that she probably didn't know any better or even realize what was, you know, I mean, I've been there. I'm not there
Mhm.
now. I'm so glad I'm not there.
Yeah,
I like I I love men, and I hate that they're having a struggle. Um, and I'm doing everything that I can, including interviewing you, uh, to have them get on their feet
yeah,
and have their balls intact. You know,
yeah,
have their private parts be able to be intact on the.
yeah. Well, this, this notion of cutting the balls off, it's, I'd like to take I want to have a bigger picture view of just like, there's no blame because both people are really just reacting to the man not bringing his own power. And, the book really defines what I think that means. And
Yeah,
so, I look back, I don't blame her.
good.
She's just, her feminine parts are reacting to my lack of leadership in that relationship, which is true. Um, and this is the inevitable result. And so to men, I say, look, if your woman seems irritable, seems closed to sexuality, seems to criticize you a lot, stop telling yourself that she's just kind of gotten grumpy as she's gotten older. Stop telling yourself that. Actually look at your own leadership and see if you're stepping up. And the blueprint in my book really helps men kind of do that diagnostic and see maybe they're the cause, at least in some
Yeah.
ways.
So let me understand this. So you had the marriage and you left. You must have been a bit broken when you left, and then you did men's work, you said, and
Yeah.
then so I'm like trying to trace your path. Then you,
Well, I went into a relationship with a very strong and very feminine woman for many years.
mm,
And that was the laboratory to really practice, to be in relationship where, I could see, could I open this woman who was very strong and very feminine? And so that was my laboratory for the last 7 years of real relationship. And that's what brings me to today.
okay, great. I get it. I understand. I just want to give my listeners an idea of, uh, the path, and hopefully, if they get your book, they might cut out some of the painful
Yeah.
lessons. But I don't know about that because people have to grow in their own ways.
Hmm.
Also, let's just say what's behind your head because it looks like a red halo.
Oh, yeah. That's the logo. That's my logo.
Okay, and what does that mean? It's a circle with 3 lines in it.
Well, if there's any symbolism to it, the 3 lines are representative of the 3 elements of the blueprint that are talked about in the book. And the
Okay,
circle is a wholeness of a man who really embodies those elements and can really find themselves being a much more whole person when they do.
great, really great. Well, I'm attracted to the colors because everything I do is like red and black. So,
All right, perfect.
yeah. So I like those colors. Um, okay, so let's when you were growing up, I want to just get, a little bit to your roots. When
Mm.
you were growing up, what was your experience as like a boy child, like a boy growing into a man? Were
Mm.
you like kind of lost?
I, if we go way, way back, I had a brother who was, he got into a lot of trouble, to suffice it to say. And so I spent much of my youth trying not to be him, trying not to get in trouble. So I was forged early on to do the right thing, to stay out of trouble. And so that comes perilously close to what I think a lot of people know as nice guy behavior, of trying just to stay out of trouble. And that manifested in my relationship,
Yeah.
in my marriage. And I had to really break free of that. And, a lot of resources helped me see that part of me that wanted to please somebody else. And over time, I've learned to come back to myself. What is it that I desire? What is it that I need? And that's a whole practice that I talk about in the book.
Yeah. So, yeah, do nice guys, they say nice guys finish last. I think they just don't finish. I mean, I don't know if it's about last. I think they just don't
Exactly.
finish.
Yeah.
And and don't provide leadership.
Right. Yeah. And then nice guys find themselves in a relationship with a woman who doesn't respect them, and she's close to her heart and her body to him. A lot of men are like, why am I not getting enough sex? She's just not interested anymore. And I have this quote I use in the book. never confuse a woman that's not interested in the sex that's available to her versus not interested in sex at all. And so, you know, for a lot of guys who have become nice guys, they become tentative in the bedroom in particular. And it's not, I mean, you know this, Laurie.
I do.
It's
I've
not a
experienced
turn
it
on.
personally.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, as I discussed with you pre this interview, I started this thing called the Academy for Men. I co-founded it with my current partner. And I, the first time we were ever together, the way he touched me moved my whole system. And I said, who are you? What planet did you grow up on?
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. I've been with a lot of people. I've had a lot of partners in my life, and no one has ever touched me the way you touched me. I want to by the way, I have this pet peeve. I want to start an academy for men. And he said, really? I said, I don't. I said, look, I'm in the world of Tantra. There's a lot of men who are way in their feminine. They've discovered their feminine, and I kind of still like John Wayne.
Yep, exactly. This is something I talk a lot with guys about. It's like, oh my gosh, most of the guys I coach, they have no sense of dark energy within them.
Right, dark masculine.
Yeah.
Right.
And so this is what I've put together a program to work with men on developing your dark energies. And it, as you said, I love your reaction because it is pretty typical of, I think, most men. It's like they encounter a man like that and it's just like, they're just floored, and they're often open to that kind of energy. If I have to say, if the dark energy is coupled with heart, that's very important. I think dark energy by itself.
That's so good. If the dark energy is coupled with heart, that's
yes. This is the magical combination. It's not becoming Christian Grey and then doing these things.
Exactly.
And you got to have both for it to really land and really last. Yeah. This is what I work with guys on.
So what's the name of the book?
The book is called The Masculine in Relationship, a blueprint for inspiring the trust, lust, and devotion of a strong woman.
Of a strong woman. Yeah, good. That's I hope that's a bestseller. That's just awesome. You said something about how a lot of copies being sold right away.
Yeah, I've been pleased with how it's going. I understand that it's selling quite well relative to, you know, independently published books.
Great. Very, very great. All right. So dark energy coupled with heart, not Christian Grey tying somebody up and just doing a bunch of things to them. Thank you.
What do you like about that, Laurie?
Well, you know, you may not know this about me, but I aside from teaching about sacred sexuality and spirituality and shamanism, I teach a course called Tantra Meets BDSM.
Yeah.
In a professional dom who lives in the New York City area. He was a student of mine for years. And then he got into kink. He thought, he's Indian. He thought Tantra was a little bit too woo-woo. So he got in, yeah, and he has dark energy. So he got into kink, and we've been teaching together for 3 years with all his idea. What I know about BDSM is that it isn't just tying somebody up and using a lot of things on them to give them sensation play or beating the crap out of them. It's BDSM is like a negotiation. It's a conversation. It's a
clarity, which is such a big part of the masculine blueprint that I read about.
Exactly. It's clarity. It's connection. It's communication. And actually nothing happens in a scene that the sub, the person playing the receiver, doesn't want. So even if it looks like in that movie, there was never anything, she said, I want this. She just kept going towards him and he kept doing things to her. Yeah. And that was like, nah, that wasn't real. I know that woman made a lot of money on those books, that movie. Good for her, but that was not it. What it did do was it heightened people's awareness to BDSM and to exploring it.
Yeah, maybe even my own, because I ended up, I don't know if it was because of that book, but I ended up in the last few years taking a few workshops on BDSM. And for me, it was the energetics. That's what I took away most of all, the energetics. And so you know, people think BDSM and they think all this weird stuff about whips and chains, but it's really about that energetic of, I am guiding us here, at least from the top's perspective. And that energy can come out simply in how you kiss somebody. It doesn't have to be, you know, something more elaborate and more BDSM classically related. You know,
Exactly.
any man can develop that energy and bring it to a kiss. And when you do that, guys, it's, you know, it's game on for most people. For most people.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, the pre-recording, we talked about this, um, masculine taking the lead. So can you say a little more about this? Because I actually was prepared to argue with you about some things, and
Okay.
you know, I like to. Maybe we will argue a little bit. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But
Well, so the question is, you know, about the masculine taking the lead, and I think we're talking about in the context of the bedroom. Um, and from a larger perspective, the whole book is about men. Stop waiting for things to get better. Stop waiting for her to change. Stop waiting for the fight to blow over. There's actually things you can do to lead the two of you in those times and lead you into a better place. So the same thing applies to sexuality. You know, stop. There's so many men that I work with, and I think it's actually pretty darn common. You know, they're not having as much sex with their partner as they want to, and they think it's because she's got frigid. Well, you know, in chapter 13 on sexual leadership in the book, I am really coaching men, you know, lead her into her own turn on, lead her into her arousal. And so, you know, one way to do that, guys, it's not about sexual technique. It's actually start with creating the conditions. Like I like to talk about a container. So in the book, I go through, you know, how can you be the master of timing? How can you set up the environment? How can you set up a heart connection? So let me just quickly explain a couple of those, Laura.
okay, yeah, sure.
Like timing, I know with my last partner, if she felt like there was we were going to be sexual, say in the morning, but it would bleed into when she needed to get up and get ready for work, it would actually make her nervous, and her body would close. And so what I would do is I would set a timer. Okay, baby, 20 minutes, and when that timer goes off, we will get out of bed. And then she was able just to relax, and we could be sexual for even just a short time, because I created some structure around timing. So that's one.
Yeah,
Environment, you know, men, before you bring her into the bedroom, like light the candles, turn the heat up a little bit, you know, pick up the room so that the environment is something that opens her, because women tend to be more tuned to the beauty of their environment than you will be. You know, that's a second condition men can do. Heart connection, you know, establish a heart connection with her, you know, particularly throughout the day. Like set this up early where you're um, creating that heart connection, which is then once you get into the bedroom, she's just automatically going to be more open and more sexual and in her body. So
exactly.
this is one of 8 that I have in the book that I go to in detail. Like these are things that a man can do to set the container within which her sexuality can blossom, you know, and hopefully she within that container she can just go as wild as she wants. So that's leadership for me, you know, even before you get to any of the techniques, Laurie, you know, that's part of the leadership a man can bring.
Yeah, I think it's. I think. Well, you know, when I was growing up, that I thought that men knew everything. Like I thought men talked about everything. I thought that men compared stories of seduction and being with women, and
Mhm.
I found out that they don't. And women talk much more about it.
Yes.
Women
Yeah.
talk about every detail with each other. I mean,
Right.
and I was brought up that men had to make the first move, and that they would know what they were doing
Mhm.
in the bedroom, because girls weren't supposed to. Girls were slut shamed if
Mhm.
they knew anything about sex, or if they pretended to like it, or say, I like this better than this. So
Yeah.
women would shut up, even though they probably did know more. They were much more precocious.
Mhm.
And men, uh, they didn't, if they made the first move, they didn't always know what they were doing. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
so I like, you know, I like that you're saying, you know, set the mood, set the this, that creates safety.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you said create safety. That is the third element of my masculine blueprint is create safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
It creates safety to feel like I got this handled, baby.
Yes. Yes. You know, it's not men, it's not, you know, how tall and how good looking and how rich and how smart you are, you know, they're important. But if you have this other quality that you just described, Lori, of like, I know what I'm doing, you know, I have this energy within me that is directive. like that's just as important as how tall or good looking you are, men. So you can really, I love the word you use because that's one that I use to describe this container, seduction. Seduction is just as powerful as looks, I think, in these dynamics.
Totally, totally, totally.
It's
So
kind of like your man. The way he touched you the first time, it was, how he touched you didn't have anything to do with how he looked. It was how he touched you and how he
how
approached
he touched me, it wasn't looks at all, and it was like we met at a party and we walked away from each other.
you.
And we saw each other at if I'm boring my listeners, it's because they've probably heard this before. Um, we went to a one taste event.
Yep.
Two people were coming to Phoenix that I was helping to establish one taste here where I am in Phoenix. And the same guy showed up at this event. And I said, didn't I meet you the other night? We talked about wine. He said, oh yeah, and that was it. And then they put him on the hot seat and they said to him, what do you want? And he said, I believe there's a goddess in every woman. And that's who I want to meet. And I got like,
every woman in the place got wet.
I did, and had a little visceral reaction. And so at the end, I said, it was in a bookstore where there was a wine bar, and I said, we should have a drink. He said, why? I said, because I am the goddess.
Nice confidence. I love it.
And I said, and what you said, I got a little wet.
Yeah.
He just, like his eyes went, and then we had a drink, and then he said, should we date? I said, I think we should. So it didn't start from the first moment, but it started from the first moment of me getting like, who was in there?
Yeah.
Who was lurking in there? And I was just like, I never heard anything like, I said to him when he was on the hot seat, I said, did you ever tell anyone that? And he said, no. And I said, oh, well, I heard it.
Great. I love it. Yeah. And what I would say from that story is to the men listening, like you can learn these things. And I don't mean as kind of like a sideshow kind of a technique, but you can learn this leadership. You can learn this, this way of being that really attracts women way more than you ever used to.
Today, again, I want to let you know, I am interviewing GS Youngblood, who has written a book about masculinity and men discovering their masculine code, which is thrilling for me. I mean, I'm very excited about it. Since I'm part of the people who caused some damage, I'm happy to be making repairs and helping men find their way again. And so, GS, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
So what were you doing before you were an author?
I was a Silicon Valley executive in high-tech companies for the longest time, and big companies, startups. I even started one of my own that got acquired. And, one of the things I took away from that is, leadership in Silicon Valley has evolved from just, kind of control to more inspiring your people, because the millennials who are being employed in Silicon Valley these days they're not wanting to be told what to do. They're wanting to be inspired. And that's a lot of what I bring. This model of masculine leadership in the book is not about control and being in charge. It's not about it at all. It's about leading. It's about inspiring your woman to want to follow you and inspire, as the subtitle says, inspiring her trust, lust, and devotion. And that's what it's all about. So that's what I did for many, many years. And now I just do real estate investing and obviously the activities around my coaching of men and around this book.
Awesome. Really awesome. By the way, we have that in common too. I wasn't in Silicon Valley, but I was a corporate organization development and management trainer in the software area in LA a few decades ago. So
got it. So you get it. Yeah, I love that.
Teaching leaders how to inspire their.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And the crossover, it's a little bit tricky for me because I'm talking about masculinity, which doesn't have a place in the workplace, but that executive presence is something I teach to both men and women. And I actually use some of the same techniques about, helping you become more grounded and focused and that directive energy. Just we have different language for it. So I help executives now, or executives and frontline people.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that. I have a little bit of that too. So
Mhm.
yeah, we have a lot in common. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Mhm.
Well, okay. So if you were to, I like to take this time in the show to see if there's any tip that you could give, like a quick tip, and then we'll talk about how people can get the book, how they can get in touch with you and stuff. Is
Yeah.
there a quick, you kind of you gave a tip before about lighting the candles and cleaning
Yeah.
up the space.
I'll give one more tip relative to sexuality. So men, move 3 times slower than you think that you are supposed to. And so what I mean
Yay!
is when I like that reaction. So when you approach her, when you're going to sexuality, move slow. When you put your hand on her and rub her body, move slow and be very conscious of how you move on her body. Women consistently tell me that they want men to move so much slower. And I'm getting the double thumbs up from Laurie here. So
Yeah.
the way that resonates for you?
It resonates for me. And plus, in the years, it's been 22 years that I've been teaching Tantra.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left the corporate environment before that. But when I first started, I used to have panels. I used to put a panel of women up in front of a bunch of men.
Mm-hmm.
I used to put a panel of men up in front of a bunch of women. And the panels of men would say, I'd say, what do you want? Or the women would be, and men would be in the audience, and I'd say, what do you want to know from the women? And they'd say, we just want to know what she wants. What does she want?
Yeah.
And every woman would say, go slow.
There you go. Exactly.
Slow down. Every woman would say, slow down. The other thing I found, and this is funny because my partner and I have a remedy for it, is if I say to a man, and over time I've said this to many men, oh my God, that's so good. Don't stop, that's so good. He would change.
Mm-hmm.
Like change what he's doing. And I go,
What part of "Don't Stop" did you not understand?
yeah, stop. Was I speaking English? Do you speak English? Didn't I say don't stop? Why'd you stop? So we invented something called the back button, just like you have on the computer, you go
Mm-hmm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
So I just say back.
Yeah.
Or I say back by 2.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. I like that code.
shortcut. Yeah, shortcut. So I don't have to go into a paragraph or get pissed off. I mean, I've done emotional release in the middle of lovemaking with someone. Like where it just stopped and I went, wait a minute.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And my partner at the time said, are you doing emotional release? And I said, yeah, I'm doing emotional release because I don't want to have to like hit you or kick you or do something weird.
That's the thing men don't understand is because there's a lot of emotions can come out from a feminine partner. One of my buddies just the other day is having a little bit of a hard time with his feminine partner, and she started to cry during sexuality, and he was just flummoxed. He was like, "Whoa, wait a minute!" And he kind of wanted to shut it down.
Yeah.
And I was coaching. I was like, "No, let that flow because that means she opened, and there's going to be a lot of good on the other side of that."
Right.
Emotional releases.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. So how to slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down.
Slow down. It's a practice.
Yeah, it should be like a stop sign, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
So how do people get the book? And say the name of the book again, and then how do people get the book, and how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the book is called The Masculine in Relationship, and it's available on Amazon, as all books are. And you can get in touch with me at my website, gsyoungblood.com, and you can see all the podcasts I've been on, some videos I've put together. There'd be premium content coming out that you can buy soon. It talks about my coaching. It also talks about another thing I do with feedback. I'll help you actually get feedback from other people and use those reflections to help you grow. That's a whole other part that I offer. And then you can get on Facebook, the Masculine in Relationship discussion group, where guys get together and we're discussing issues in their relationship. Or you can just like my Facebook page or my Instagram page, GS Youngblood 1 and at GS Youngblood MIR. Those are myriad of ways.
What was that last one? GS Youngblood what?
MIR, Masculine in Relationship. That's the
MIR.
Instagram handle.
Okay, MIR. Okay, that's really great. Well, I want to thank you so much for being my guest. I want to thank you so much for saying yes right away to be on the show. And And I'm glad to know that you're out there. I'm glad to know about your book. I'm glad to know that you're out there doing what you're doing. Um, needed and necessary, you know,
Mhm.
check.
Yeah.
Definitely. So anyone out there, if you heard something here that you loved, first of all, it was not to love, but if you heard it, get in touch with him. GS.
Yeah. And I'll just add gs@gsyoungblood.com is my email. And so readers, like if you like the book, reach out to me. I love hearing that. And please do, shameless plug coming, please do an Amazon review if you like the book.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
really
Laurie.
appreciate you. And everybody, thank you for listening, tuning in. Some of you may be watching. Thank you for doing that. I couldn't do it without you. I wouldn't do it without you. You're the most important thing to me, the people listening. So thank you. This is Laurie Handlers saying namaste for sex and happiness.